Oh, hello. It's a nice day for a fright wedding. I'm Kat Pinning, and this is Kat's Got Your Terror, where I tell you and a guest in my manner of death something that I find terrifying, so I'm not the only one with nightmares. My extremely special guest in the manor this week is the return of another fan favorite, and extra special because when this airs, she'll be a bride. The Thelma to my Louise, because the only way she dies is if I die with her. It's Caitlin Meile!
Hello, hello. I'm back.
You're back. And we're so excited. Also, make sure whatever you say loud and clear into the mic, because a lot of people reported that they missed your little quips because you kind of whispered them under your breath. So
I was trying not to hurt anybody's feelings either. It was such a sensitive topic. And as you know, we like
since when have you tried not to hurt people's feelings?
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your show, though.
Well, speaking of, Caitlin, you made your appearance in season 1 alongside our dearly departed Anthony. He's not dead, he just no longer lives in the manor. Where we talked about cannibals, which everyone agrees was probably our top scariest episode.
Yeah. I was like, what is that noise?
But yeah, cannibals, scary.
Yeah, I think it was...
Do you remember that episode at all?
I do. I actually rewatched it the other day.
Really?
I was going through all the episodes because I think they're fantastic. But
Thank you.
Was rewatching that and going over the conversations again, and I was just like, it's more gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
Because it's a thing. Period. End of story. It's a thing, and it's not okay.
It's definitely one of those, like, weird things that you don't think exists. Like, you think it's just like, oh, crazy, like, in the fringes exists. But no, it happens. And it's real people that exist amongst us, and that's terrifying. But anyway, so as I mentioned earlier, when this episode airs, it will actually be your wedding day. So happy wedding day. You look beautiful.
Thanks.
Can't wait to officiate your ceremony and finally hand you off to be someone else's problem officially.
You think. I will always be your problem.
That's true.
Yeah.
That being said, we're titling this episode Brides. Because let's be honest, bridezillas are real. And if you've ever been a bridesmaid, you know. And it can be terrifying. Except for me, I was an angel.
Yes.
Thank you. Or just being a bride is terror. Planning a wedding sounds fun, but as we know, scary. I mean, let's pick a reason. Family obligation, co-workers, lifetime commitment, all equally terrifying.
100%.
Yeah. But I mean, what better way to celebrate your nuptials than to keep the terror going? So, because I love you, for your special day, I thought it would be fun to go over some folklore and legends that involve brides.
Great.
Because why not?
So excited.
Because you're a bride today. Well, not today. Well, actually, technically still today. Because you're a bride until you get married and then you're just a wife. Terrifying, right?
I'm like, oh, good. Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, the first story I have for you is a pretty popular urban legend. A version of the story actually makes an appearance in one of my childhood favorite scary books, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, where it's titled The White Gown. But in that version, it's not about a bride. In this version, it is. So the story goes, a woman, let's call her, give me a name, any name.
Mary.
Okay, Mary. Mary is desperately trying to find the perfect wedding dress, but within a very small budget. Going thrift store to thrift store, she scours rack after rack, one taffeta nightmare after another, searching for her dream dress. No luck. One day, while out shopping with a friend, she comes across a small antiques oddity shop full of small trinkets and all kinds of jewelry. They even had suits, fancy dresses, and then there it was. The dress. Her dress. A beautiful white satin gown hanging in the back of the shop over a trunk full of antique handkerchiefs. She delicately lifted it from where it hung and held her breath as she looked at the tag. Not only was it her size, it was pennies compared to what a brand new gown would cost her. Mary couldn't believe her luck. She immediately bought the dress and took it home. She hastily tried it on and looked in the mirror. Tears immediately began to well in Mary's eyes. She was bridal perfection. After only a few moments of gazing at herself in the mirror, Mary heard her fiancé come home. Taking the dress off, Mary smelled a faint chemical odor that she didn't notice before. They must have had the dress professionally cleaned, she thought, and the odor never aired out in that musty old antique shop. Nothing a little perfume couldn't fix. Next thing she knew, it was the big day. Mary was a vision in her dress. Everyone said so. And of course, it was a scorcher. Everyone was sweating at the outdoor ceremony, including her. As she got ready to walk down the aisle, she smelled it, the chemical odor again, and her skin felt like it was on fire. I better not be getting a sunburn, Mary thought. During the ceremony, Mary broke out in a huge rash. That at first she thought, and everyone else thought, was heat stroke. Then she felt dizzy and began to feel faint. As she turned to face her family and friends, she stood on the altar. Mary collapsed. Her groom rushed to her side and scooped her up and took her inside, but it was too late. Mary was dead. The medical examiner concluded Mary had been poisoned through skin contact. Mary's dream dress had actually turned out to be her worst nightmare. The oddity shop turned out to be owned by grave robbers, and the dress had been on the corpse of a woman who had been improperly embalmed, and the chemical seeped into the dress. When Mary started sweating, it expedited the poison into her bloodstream, lethally poisoning her within minutes. Moral of the story, don't buy secondhand. It could literally kill you. Just kidding.
Okay, first and foremost, I get why she did it. The price of dresses those are the real killer.
Yeah.
Let me be honest with you.
Wedding dresses, woof.
That was rough. I would have taken the chemical burn.
I mean, this
if
is
I
an
did
urban
not-
legend. There's no whatchamacallit, record of anything like this ever happening. But it's a very popular urban legend that has been told numerous versions. Sometimes it's a prom dress. In the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, it's like this woman's like trying to buy like a formal dress for like this fancy party, and she puts it on, and like it's the same thing. So it's an urban legend, but pretty fun. And I mean, plausible, right? Like if you think about it, especially since grave robbing is unfortunately real.
Mm-hmm.
People be out there robbing graves.
I mean, at least she looked fantastic.
I'm
If
sure
I'm
she
gonna
did.
Go,
Yeah.
like,
That's all that
I
matters.
want to just feel my best.
Live fast, die young, leave a beautiful corpse. That's
Yep.
always been our motto.
And I mean, no, I won't go there. I'm going to leave that alone. But at least she looked fantastic. Unfortunate, but...
Hey, at least she looked great. All right. Well, the next story I have for you is from the indigenous Pawnee Nation. I don't know if you know this. I'm indigenous.
Since when?
I know.
Weird.
Yeah, crazy. Something I've been hiding from you.
Yeah.
A story passed down amongst their tribe. Translated to English, it's titled "Ghost Bride" and is told through the perspective of a tribal elder. Are you ready?
I am. I mean, the elders know their stuff, so... I remember the Ipoos. I ain't messing with it.
Okay, why you gotta bring up Ipoos?
Because that has been engraved since we were children.
Someday we'll talk about Ipoos. We can't talk about them right now, but we will talk about them someday. The Ghost Bride. In a place where we used to have a village, a young woman died just before the tribe started on their hunt. When she died, they dressed her up in her finest clothes and buried her, and soon after this, the tribe started on the hunt. A party of young men had gone off to visit another tribe, and they did not get back until after this girl had died and the tribe had left the village. Most of this party did not go back to the village, but met the tribe and went with them on the rest of the hunt. Among the young men who had been away was the one who had loved this girl before she died. He went back alone to the village. It was empty and silent, but before he reached it, he could see, far off, someone sitting on top of a lodge. When he came near, he saw it was the girl that he loved. He did not know that she had died, and he wondered to see her there alone. For the time coming when he would and he wondered to see her there alone, for the time was coming when he would be her husband and she would be his wife. When she saw him coming, she came down from the top of the lodge and went inside. When he came close to her, he spoke and said, "Why are you here alone in the village?" She answered him, "They have gone off on the hunt. I was sulky with my relations, and they went off and left me behind." The man wanted her now to be his wife, but the girl said to him, "No, not yet, but later we will be married." She said to him, "You must not be afraid. Tonight there will be dances here. The ghosts will dance." This is an old custom of the Pawnee. When they danced, they used to go from one lodge to another, singing and dancing and hallooing. So now, when the tribe had gone to the village was deserted, the ghosts did this. He could hear them coming along the empty streets, going from one lodge to another. They came into the lodge where he was and danced about and whooped and sang, and sometimes they almost touched him, and he came pretty near to being scared. The next day, the young man persuaded the girl to go on with him and follow the tribe to join them on the hunt. They started the travel together, and she promised him that she would surely be his wife, but not until the time came. They overtook the tribe, but before they got to the camp, the girl stopped. She said, now we have arrived, but you must go first into the village and prepare a place for me. Where I sleep, let it be behind a curtain. For 4 days and 4 nights, I must remain behind this curtain. Do not speak of me. Do not mention my name to anyone. The young man left her there and went into the camp. When he went into his lodge, he told a woman, one of his relations, to go out to a certain place and bring in a woman who was waiting there for him. His relative asked him, "Who is the woman?" And to avoid speaking her name, he told who were her father and mother. His relation, in surprise, said, "It cannot be that girl, for she died some days before we started on the hunt." When the woman went to look for the girl, she could not find her. The girl had disappeared. The young man had disobeyed her and had told who she was. She told him that she must stay behind the curtain for 4 days and that no one must know who she was. Instead of doing what she had said, he told of who she was, and the girl disappeared because she was a ghost. If he had obeyed, the girl would have lived a second time upon earth. That same night, this young man died in his sleep. And that's what happens when you expect a man to follow directions.
Yeah, that's not really a thing. But, like, also, chills. That breaks my heart a little bit.
Right?
Oh.
You literally had one job. Also, I like how he's like, I can't tell you who it is, but here are her parents. Bro, that's the same thing.
Like, why couldn't he have just gone, like, my bride-to-be?
Right.
Be vague.
Yeah.
I mean, I expected very little from that, but...
I think what's cool is like so what they mentioned in the story is like the Pawnee belief that when, because, tribes were nomadic, like they traveled. And so they would leave behind like the lodges or whatever that they had built. And so like the belief is that when they left those behind, like the ghosts of, people who came before would then occupy those lodges.
I love that.
So she was left behind because like that was the last lodge that she had been a part of.
And that's where she would stay.
That's where the ghosts were dancing. So like the fact that she was like, there's going to be ghosts here tonight, just so you know. It's chill though.
It's like, all good. Like, don't panic.
Don't panic.
And I like how he was like borderline, but he's like, this is totally normal.
He was like, I was almost scared, but not really.
Not really. But they were so close. And the fact that he then died in his sleep that night, it is that like,
well, you're going to be together
till death and forevermore
and
kind of thing.
And then some.
Love that.
Yeah. I want to know what the 4 days thing was about. Like why she had to be like behind a curtain for 4 days. I would like to be behind a curtain for 4 days.
I was like, I do that now.
I was going to say, I would like to be left undisturbed. No one speak of me.
Do not say my name.
Do not say my name. Leave me behind this curtain where I will sleep for 4 days.
Leave snacks, little offerings.
Oh my gosh,
just
leave
water,
a small
maybe
offering.
some beef jerky and goldfish. And I'd be set 4 days.
Yeah.
Sounds like
easily.
a dream. And he's over here blowing her freaking cover. No
but again,
that's
like, what happens when you expect a man to follow directions. And he literally you had one thing, dude. One thing. And you blew it.
Yeah. So basically, all the gentlemen out there, let us sit behind our curtains. Give us the 4 days. Leave me a Tito's and soda, some goldfish.
And leave me behind my curtain.
Otherwise, you're not husband material. Get lost. Kick rocks.
Kick rocks. There you go. Okay, so the last story I have for you has a version of it in the sequel to Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh my God, those were the best.
More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, where it was titled The Bride. Okay. But its most popular version comes from London, where it's known as the Mistletoe or Mistlebough Bride. And it goes something like this. A couple were to be married in the groom's castle on Christmas Eve. After the ceremony and wedding feast, the happy guests and newlyweds decided a game of hide and seek would be great fun. Because, this was the old days and, there wasn't really a whole lot to do. So,
They didn't have PS5.
hide and seek after the wedding ceremony was, the big thing. We should go back to that.
I was like, hey, we have the woods at
I was going to
mine.
say, at your wedding, we're going to be in Idlewild. So, we could hide in
send
trees.
I'm
sure that won't end in disaster at all. But anyway,
it'll be fine.
The groom was it. Everyone hurried to closets and nooks within the great house while the bride, competitive to the end, decided the attic would make her the last to be found. She would win the game and remain the star of her own wedding day. The guests searched until everyone was found. All but one, the bride. They looked everywhere. The groom frantic, the guests scurrying to check every cranny in the house. Nothing. They searched through the night and as the next day wore on, it became obvious that they would not find her. She had vanished. Years later, the old man decided to move out of the manor where he had married this beautiful bride and had lived alone for decades since her disappearance. Cousins were helping empty each room of its contents. The last task, the attic. A giant oak trunk sat in the corner. Curious as to what could possibly be inside, the grand ancient trunk was opened and disclosed a grim secret. The skeleton of a young woman. Her disintegrating veil falling from the wreath of mistletoe around her skull. You see, the bride had found her way to the attic. She saw the large oak trunk in a dim corner. It was huge, and she lifted the heavy lid with some effort. She looked around and listened for a moment to see if anyone was coming to the attic. Silence. She smiled and climbed into the trunk, excited at the thought at her young husband's excitement when she pushed open the lid to reveal herself. She stepped in, tucking the long skirt of her dress beneath her, her wedding veil falling like a cloud around her. After she pulled the lid down, she heard it. A thud, then the heavy metal lock as it clicked, sealing her fate.
But at least she won.
Yes, but at least she won.
I'm competitive as all hell. So it's that was my first thought. I'm like.
And Caitlin, if there's anything we've learned, it's don't hide in things with locks. That never turns out how you hope.
Yeah, that's true.
We've been locked in many
a
place.
My stubborn ass would have still been like, still ain't gonna find me in here. Good luck. But
at least she died a winner,
That's what I'm thinking. It's really sad though that he lived all by himself. But also, why did nobody check the attic?
That would, yeah.
If you have one and you've checked everywhere else, my thought would be that's a great hiding place. We should probably check the attic.
That's true. This is technically everyone else's fault for being really bad at hide and seek.
Yeah.
Because, you best be checking everywhere.
If we're playing hide and seek and someone has an attic, you better check for me. I mean, now I'm not going to hide there because...
Well, please don't hide in attics with giant trunks.
I still like the idea of doing the hide and seek thing at my wedding, though.
Yeah.
You think we could lose a few people out there for a few hours and just be like, meh, they'll be fine?
I think what we do is we start the game with a count of certain people, but we shorten it by 4. So then that way it's everyone's back. We counted 14.
You know what? It's Idlewild. Town's not but 5 minutes out. Survival of the fittest. They'll be found eventually. Maybe a little hungover and sad, but...
It's a Hunger Games wedding.
Darwinism. Survival.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for being here, Kate. I love you. And if I had a soul, you would be its mate.
Same.
I'm so excited for you and TJ, and it's going to be a gorgeous, spectacular day. I'm going to make sure of it. And I will literally end anyone who even thinks of getting in the way of it.
Just done. And that is why you will always be there by my side. I know. Would never want anybody else to do this shit show with me, because it is. It's expensive and it's crazy. But find you a Caitlin. Find you that person that can do it with you. So
thank you. And for anyone confused, my real name is Caitlin.
Oh, I think we went over this last
time. Did we?
Time.
Just in case. Well, if you didn't know.
P.S.
John says no, but my real name is Caitlin, but I go by Kat.
Kat, Caitlin,
Same thing.
same thing.
But my black heart beats for you.
We love you.
And thank you, my little baddies, for joining us this week. And remember, brides, don't get your wedding dress from a peculiar oddity shop. And then definitely don't play hide and seek in the trunk. And grooms, please follow directions, especially if your bride is a ghost. Until we meet again, happy terrors.